Jasmine Crockett's fiery clash with Bill Maher erupts over progressive passion, exposing double standards and igniting a viral storm as she storms off, leaving Maher scrambling. The stage lights of Real Time with Bill Maher burned bright, the audience buzzing with anticipation as the host leaned back in his chair, his trademark smirk in place. Across from him sat Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, her posture composed but her eyes sharp, ready for whatever curveballs Maher might throw. The episode had been billed as a lively one, with Crockett's rising star in Congress promising a fresh perspective. But no one expected the powder keg that was about to ignite. Maher kicked things off with his usual blend of wit and provocation, diving into the night's topic, the state of progressive politics. "Look, I get it," he said, addressing the audience with a theatrical shrug. "Progressives are passionate. They feel everything deeply, but doesn't that get in the way of actually governing? I mean, all this emotion. It's like running a country on vibes." The crowd chuckled, a few clapping in agreement, but Crockett's expression didn't budge. She tilted her head slightly, her lips pursed, as if sizing up the jab. "Bill, hold up," she said, her voice steady but carrying an edge. "You're framing passion like it's a liability. Passion is what drives change. It's what got people like me into rooms like this, fighting for folks who've been ignored." The audience murmured, some nodding, others leaning forward. Maher raised an eyebrow, clearly relishing the challenge. "Sure, but when you're shouting about feelings, it drowns out reason. Governance isn't therapy." Crockett didn't flinch. "That's a lazy take," she shot back, her tone calm but cutting. "You're implying progressives, especially young women, especially women of color, can't be emotional and strategic. We've been governing just fine, Bill, despite folks like you dismissing us as too woke to think straight." The crowd erupted, a mix of cheers and gasps. Maher leaned forward, his smirk fading slightly. "I'm not dismissing anyone. I'm saying emotional outbursts don't solve budget deficits." The tension was palpable now, the air thick with the kind of electricity that makes live TV unforgettable. Crockett leaned in, her voice measured but laced with steel. "You keep saying emotional outbursts, but what you're really doing is policing how people like me show up. When a white guy gets loud, he's passionate. When I do it, I'm unhinged. Double standards, Bill." The audience roared, some jumping to their feet. Maher's eyes narrowed and he waved a hand dismissively. "Oh, come on, Jasmine. Don't pull the identity card. This isn't about race or gender. It's about results." That was the spark. Crockett's composure held, but her gaze turned icy. "You don't get to tell me what it's about," she said, her voice low but commanding. "You sit here, night after night, taking shots at people like me, calling us too sensitive, too loud, too much. But let me tell you something, Bill. My lived experience, my identity, that's what informs my work. It's why I fight for my district. You don't get to trivialize that and call it playing a card." The crowd was on fire now, the applause deafening. Maher tried to interject, but Crockett wasn't done. "You want results? Look at my record. Look at the bills I've pushed. Then tell me I'm just feeling my way through Congress." Maher, visibly rattled, tried to pivot. All right. Let's not make this personal. I'm just saying governing takes a cool head." But Crockett wasn't letting him off. "A cool head doesn't mean a cold heart," she said, her words slicing through the room. "You're so obsessed with looking detached that you've forgotten what it means to care." The audience was eating it up, phones already out, recording. The moment that was destined to go viral. Maher, sensing the shift, tried to lighten the mood. "Okay, Jasmine, you're preaching now. Save it for the campaign trail." That was the wrong move. Crockett's eyes flashed and she leaned back, her voice dropping to a dangerous calm. "You know what, Bill? I don't need your permission to speak my truth, and I'm not here to be your punching bag." The crowd held its breath, sensing something big was coming. Maher opened his mouth to respond, but Crockett was already standing, her chair scraping against the floor. Was she about to walk off? The tension was unbearable, the moment hanging by a thread. The studio lights seemed to flicker as Jasmine Crockett stood, her silhouette commanding the stage. The crowd's roar dulled to a tense hum, every eye locked on her. Bill Maher, caught off guard, froze mid-gesture, his hand hovering as if he could physically pull the moment back under his control. "Whoa, Jasmine, let's not get theatrical," he said, his voice straining for levity but betraying a crack of unease. The audience didn't laugh. They were too riveted, phones raised, capturing every second of the standoff. Crockett's gaze didn't waver, her voice low and deliberate. "Theatrical? Bill, you've built a career on turning real issues into punchlines. I'm not here for your comedy routine." The words landed like a slap, and the crowd erupted, some cheering, others gasping. Maher's smirk vanished entirely, replaced by a tight-lipped scowl. He leaned forward, elbows on the desk, trying to reclaim the narrative. "I'm not the enemy here. I'm just asking questions. You're the one making it a spectacle." That jab lit a new fire. Crockett's hands found her hips, her stance unyielding. "A spectacle? You invited me here, Bill. You set this stage. But the second I push back, I'm too much? That's the game, isn't it? You poke, you prod, you get your laughs, but when someone calls you out, suddenly they're the problem." The audience was electric, their applause swelling. A woman in the front row shouted, "Tell him!" Maher's eyes darted to the crowd, then back to Crockett, his composure fraying. He tried to pivot, his tone sharper now. "Look, I respect your work, but you're dodging the point. Passion's great, but it doesn't balance budgets or pass laws. You've got to play the game, not just preach." Crockett's laugh was sharp, cutting through the room. "Play the game? Bill, I've been playing it since I stepped into Congress. I've navigated rooms full of people who look at me and see young, black, woman, and think I don't belong. I've passed laws, I've fought for my district, and I've done it while people like you question my every move. Don't lecture me about the game." The crowd was on its feet now, the energy chaotic. Maher, visibly flustered, tried to regain control. "Okay, but you're proving my point. You're getting emotional, and it's clouding the conversation." That was gasoline. Crockett's eyes narrowed, her voice dropping to a dangerous calm. "Emotional? Bill, what you call emotional, I call conviction. You're so busy mocking it that you don't see the strength it takes to show up, day after day, in a system that wasn't built for me. You don't get to gatekeep how I express that." Maher scoffed. "A mistake." "Gatekeep? I'm just saying, tone it down. You're not on the House floor, this is a talk show." The crowd booed, a wave of disapproval washing over him. Crockett seized the moment, her voice rising just enough to command silence. "Tone it down? You mean shrink myself to make you comfortable? I've spent my life being told to be quieter, smaller, less. I'm done with that, and I'm done letting you frame my passion as a flaw." The applause was deafening, shaking the studio. Maher's face reddened, his usual cool unraveling. He tried one last deflection. "Jasmine, you're taking this way too personally. It's just a debate." Crockett stepped closer to the desk, her presence towering despite her calm. "No, Bill. It's not just a debate when you're dismissing my entire existence to score points. You don't get to reduce me to a caricature and then cry foul when I clap back." The crowd was a frenzy now, some chanting her name. Maher, cornered, snapped, "You're making this impossible. Can we just talk policy?" Crockett shook her head, her voice steady but laced with finality. "You don't want policy. You want a soundbite, and I'm not giving you one." She turned, her heels clicking as she started toward the stage's edge. The audience gasped, sensing the breaking point. Maher, desperate, called after her, "Jasmine, come on, don't do this." But her stride didn't falter, and the crowd's roar followed her, a tidal wave of support. Was she really leaving? The cameras zoomed in, the moment teetering on. Chaos. The studio air crackled as Jasmine Crockett's heels echoed, each step a deliberate rebuke to Bill Maher's plea. The audience was a live wire, their cheers swelling into a roar that drowned out the host's voice. "Jasmine, come on, don't do this!" Maher shouted again, his tone a mix of exasperation and panic, his hands gripping the desk as if to anchor himself. But Crockett paused at the stage's edge, her back to him, her silhouette framed by the spotlight. The cameras caught every angle, the tension so thick it felt like the room might combust. She wasn't gone yet, and the crowd sensed she had one more move to make. Crockett turned slowly, her eyes locking onto Maher's. "You don't get it, do you?" she said, her voice calm but searing, slicing through the noise. "This isn't about me walking away. It's about you refusing to listen." The audience erupted, a wave of applause crashing over the set. Maher's jaw tightened, his usual swagger replaced by a flicker of unease. He leaned forward, trying to salvage control. "I'm listening, Jasmine, but you're turning this into a circus. Sit down, let's talk." The crowd booed, their disapproval a palpable force. Crockett raised a hand, silencing them with a single gesture. "A circus?" she said, her tone sharp enough to cut glass. "You invited me here, Bill. You set the rules. But when I play, by my own, when I speak my truth, you call it chaos. That's not on me, that's on you." The audience roared again, some standing, their phones capturing the moment that was already spreading like wildfire online. Maher's eyes darted to the crowd, then back to her, his frustration boiling over. "You're twisting this. I'm just trying to have a conversation." Crockett stepped closer, her presence commanding despite her measured tone. "A conversation? No, Bill. You want a performance. You want me to sit here, smile, and let you poke holes in my existence for your audience's amusement. I'm not your prop." The crowd was deafening now, their cheers shaking the studio. Maher, cornered, snapped back, "You're making this about you. This show's about ideas, not your feelings." The words landed like a misfired shot, and the audience's boos drowned him out. Crockett's laugh was low, cutting. "My feelings? Bill, you've spent this entire segment dismissing my perspective as too emotional. But let me school you. My perspective comes from living in a world that tells people like me to shut up and stay in line. My feelings? They're forged in the fight for my community. You don't get to trivialize that and call it a debate." The crowd was on its feet, chanting her name. Maher's face flushed, his cool unraveling. "I'm not trivializing anything," he shot back. "You're just not answering the question." That was the breaking point. Crockett's eyes flashed, her voice rising just enough to silence the room. "What's the question, Bill? How I govern? I've got a record you can't touch. How I lead. My district trusts me. Or is the real question why I won't let you reduce me to a caricature for your ratings?" The audience exploded, the sound seismic. Maher, desperate, tried to interrupt. "You're dodging—" But Crockett cut him off, her voice ablade. "No, you're dodging. You're dodging the fact that you've built a career on mocking people like me while pretending it's just questions. I see through you, and so do they." She gestured to the crowd, who roared in agreement. Maher's hands flew up, his voice sharp. "This is ridiculous. You're grandstanding, and it's not helping your case." The crowd booed louder, and Crockett seized the moment, her tone icy. "My case? I don't need to prove myself to you. I've earned my seat in Congress, my voice, my place. You're the one who needs to check yourself because this—" she waved a hand at the set, "this is your house, but you're losing. The room." The audience was a frenzy, their support a tidal wave. Maher, floundering, tried one last jab. "You're walking off because you can't handle the heat." Crockett's smile was lethal, her voice steady as steel. I can handle the heat, Bill. I just don't waste it on someone who's already checked out. She turned again, her stride purposeful, the crowd's cheers following her like thunder. The cameras panned to Maher, alone at his desk, his face a mask of shock. Was this the end? The moment hung, raw and unresolved, as the stage lights dimmed. The stage lights dimmed, casting long shadows as Jasmine Crockett's silhouette vanished into the wings, her heels' final clicks swallowed by the audience's thunderous roar. The cameras lingered on Bill Maher, stranded at his desk, his usual smirk replaced by a stunned grimace. The crowd's cheers morphed into chants of, "Jasmine! Jasmine!" shaking the studio. Maher's hands twitched, his eyes darting to the control booth as if begging for a lifeline. The moment was raw, electric, a live TV catastrophe unfolding in real time. He opened his mouth, fumbling for words. "Well, folks, that's passion for you," he stammered, forcing a chuckle that fell flat. The audience booed, a wave of disapproval crashing over him. Backstage, Crockett didn't slow her stride, her face a mask of resolve. A producer rushed toward her, headset askew, pleading, "Congresswoman, please, we need you back out there." She stopped, turning to him with a look that could freeze fire. "I said what I needed to say," she replied, her voice calm but unyielding. "I'm not here to prop up his show." The producer gaped, but she was already moving, her team falling in step behind her. The confrontation had ended, but its ripples were just beginning. On stage, Maher tried to pivot, his voice strained. "All right, let's move on. We've got more to discuss." But the crowd wasn't having it, their boos growing louder, some shouting, "Bring her back!" He raised a hand, desperation creeping in. "Come on! This is a talk show, not a wrestling match." The jab only fueled the fire, the audience's jeers drowning him out. The cameras cut to a wide shot, capturing the chaos. Maher alone, the empty chair beside him a glaring symbol of his misstep. Social media was already ablaze, clips of Crockett's takedown racking up millions of views. Hashtags like "Our Jasmine owns Maher" trending worldwide. Crockett, now in the green room, ignored the buzzing of her phone as notifications poured in. Her aide handed her a water, whispering, "You're viral, ma'am. They're calling it iconic." Crockett took a sip, her expression steady. "I didn't come here for viral," she said. "I came to speak truth." He pushed. I pushed back. Her aide nodded, awe in her eyes. "But walking off? That was bold." Crockett's lips curved slightly. "Sometimes you have to draw a line." He crossed mine. Back in the studio, Maher limped through the segment's end, his jokes landing like lead. "Well, that's one way to make a night memorable," he quipped, but the audience's silence was deafening. As the show cut to commercial, he slumped, in his chair, the weight of the moment sinking in. The fallout was swift. Pundits dissected the clash, some praising Crockett's poise, others clutching pearls over her disrespect. But the public's verdict was clear. Crockett had owned the stage, exposing Maher's playbook and refusing to play along. In the days that followed, Crockett faced a media storm. Talk shows begged for interviews. Op-eds debated her outburst. She chose her moments carefully, speaking at a Dallas community event instead. "I didn't walk off that stage to make headlines," she told the crowd, her voice resonant. "I walked off because my voice, my truth, isn't up for debate. Not by him, not by anyone." The audience cheered, her words a rallying cry for those tired of being dismissed. Online, her supporters amplified her message, sharing clips with captions like, "This is how you set boundaries." Maher, meanwhile, tried to spin the narrative on his next episode. "Look, she's passionate, I'll give her that," he said, smirking. "But walking off? That's not how you win an argument." The audience's tepid response told him he'd misjudged the room again. Ratings dipped, and whispers grew. that he'd met his match. Crockett's calm defiance had shifted the conversation, forcing a reckoning about who gets to speak and how. Crockett stayed focused, returning to Congress with renewed fire. Her viral moment didn't define her, it amplified her. She pushed harder for her district, her poise in the face of Maher's jabs a blueprint for others. "You don't have to yell to be heard," she told a young activist. "You just have to stand your ground." Her clash with Maher became a cultural touchstone, a reminder that authenticity could outshine cynicism. And as the dust settled, one truth lingered. Jasmine Crockett hadn't just walked off a stage. She'd walked into history, unapologetic and unbroken.